Down from the heavens bearing the gift, it's Jometheus, and welcome to another Joe's Drawing, whatever the hell it's called. I don't remember what it was called, but we're gonna do it anyway. Today I am drawing some fan art from one of my new favorite shows, Toradora. We're gonna be drawing the two main characters from that show. Alright, so okay, I always start with the head. What kind of shape head should we got? You start with a circle. Okay. Our eyes take up like this much of red. Okay. Probably like that. And then soften out. Kind of comes like that a little. That seems right. Okay. As far as eye shape goes, it's making fucking noise. I'll make sure they're not too far apart. So let's say that's the middle. Make them like starting here, starting there. It's got this like inward and upper. She's always sort of angry. The Toradora, as I never really explained, is a show about these two kids and this guy, Ryuji. Everybody thinks that he's a bad kid for no real reason, just because of the way that his face looks. Like he's kind of got this look about him like he's an asshole or something. So everybody kind of judges him based on that. Meanwhile, he like loves to cook and clean, and he's really a nice dude. And this is Taiga. Yeah, that's just her name. She's very small. She's like 4 feet tall. But she could beat the shit out of you in like 2 seconds. And they run into each other at school. And let me see, that might be too small. I don't know. Might be the right size. What do you think about this? Move this back over here. But yeah, they run into each other in school, and she slips something into his note bag, or his book bag, or whatever the hell. And he's like, what the fuck? And she gets all pissed off. And when she realizes that it's his book bag, because apparently she thought it was somebody else's. But anyway, she like messes up the classroom. He ends up cleaning that up, and then he goes home. Later on, when he's at home, he goes to grab something out of his book bag, and he finds this envelope, and it's addressed to his best friend. And he's like, oh, this must have been what she accidentally put into my locker, or my book bag. he like holds it up to the light and the envelope's empty. He's like, well, whatever it is, she forgot to put the thing in there. So he ends up going to sleep, and then at like 2 a.m. he hears something in the other room. So he goes to investigate, and Taiga, broke into his house and is coming at him with this like wooden katana or whatever. It's like, you weren't supposed to see that, and now you gotta die. Just because that's the amount of dramatics and theatrics and whatever that she goes through in any given situation. And he's like, I didn't see anything, there wasn't anything in the envelope, and anyway, it's probably a good thing that you didn't give it to him, because the envelope was empty and all this sort of stuff. And so then she's still like aggressively freaking out, and then she like passes out. So he makes some food, because that's kind of just his thing, because he likes to cook. And so she eats the food, and she's all kind of depressed about it. And it's like, I can't believe I messed that up, and like, I didn't even put the thing in there, and all this stuff. And then so he's kind of talking to her and trying to make her feel better, because, I mean, one, he just kind of feels bad, but also she's in his house at like 3 a.m. and he's just like, I want this girl to fucking leave. Like, this crazy person who just broke into my house, I just want him to leave so I can go to sleep. And so he's like, it's okay if you have like a crush on somebody, because you see, like, I have this whole box of stuff that like I would hypothetically give to this girl that I like, but I'm too chicken to actually do it, so at least you're not like me. And then so she sees the box of stuff, and she's like, oh, because it's her best friend. And so they both are in love with each other's best friend. And so they kind of come up with this idea that they're gonna help the other to get together with their best friend. And yeah, and so that's basically the plot of the show, is they are trying to be wingmen or whatever for each other, whatever the term would be, to help hook the other up with the best friend. And a lot of wacky situations and whatnot ensue, and it's really good. It's really nice. It's like a really cute little love story, and it's a good watch. Probably starts talking spoilers just so I can still have something to talk about for the rest of the video. So spoilers if you haven't watched it, but it's like it's like 12 years old at this point, so if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. But yeah, I'm gonna start talking some spoilers for it. So throughout the course of the show, they kind of start as kind of predictably, because it's one of those things. It's like, oh, what you wanted was right in front of you all along. It's like, even from the first like 2 or 3 episodes, you can kind of tell. It's like, well, of course they want to get together with the friend or with the other person, but you can very easily tell that they like each other. And it's cute. And so her face actually seems a little too big here, so let me see. I haven't worked with my drawing software in a very long time, actually. Let's see what we can do here. Yeah, mess with the eyes. Yeah, there's some kind of very well written moments. Like, there's some callbacks later on in the season to lines that were just kind of throwaways or used as humor, that you wouldn't really expect to come back, but they come back, and they kind of, whereas they made you laugh in the first place, they kind of punch you in the gut. And I really appreciate writing like that, where it can mean this one thing in the moment and then be something entirely different later on. Yeah, I'm really not doing this the way that I normally would. Normally I'd kind of make my rough for the whole thing, and then I don't know. So, anime. Why anime? Huh? I think anime's got this big stigma against it. I probably even talked about this in another thing. I'm feeling like maybe I just did already, but yeah, it's got this big stigma against it because there's admittedly some very odd choices for some things in a lot of anime shows. Like, as far as everybody's in high school, yet they still, like, there's always like a beach episode or like a swimming episode that shows everybody off in their swimsuits or bikinis or whatever. Which is gross. And a lot of places, or a lot of things that I've seen, when people talk about it, it's like, we know it's gross. It's just part of what the show is. It's just part of, I don't know if it's like a cultural thing, but it's like every anime that I've ever watched has had weird shit in it like that. Like, the rest of the show can be awesome and nice and like heartfelt and all this stuff, but then there's always got to be like a couple scenes in there that are like, this is weird. I don't really know why. It just is how it is. No, it is what it is. It's one of those weird tropes. There's a lot of weird things about anime. I wanted to make a video about just that, just because I could literally make a whole video just talking about all the weird things specific to anime, as opposed to like Western cartoons that like we're familiar with. Let's see. Like, even fucking people are gross. So like, I was trying to find, because this cuts off like right here, I was trying to find a picture where it's like, what kind of shoes does she wear? And even specifically looking up like character sheet, or just, you get these results that are, and this is the fucking thing with anything on the internet, I feel like. It's like, doesn't matter what it is, but you get like fucking like 30 results that are like gross before you get any results that are like actually what you're looking for. Just like Rule 34 of the internet and whatnot. But I'd say it's heightened with anime, unfortunately, because there's some really nice animes out there. Like, this is, I had mentioned in another video, I binged it like 3 times when I first watched it, and it's because it's really sweet. It's a really nice love story, and there's some moments that like will make you cry, and there's a lot of moments that'll make you laugh. It's just really well written. It's really nice. It's a nice watch. It's comforting. It's really sweet. But even so, there's a couple episodes in the middle, like any other, where it's like, oh, well, now they're at the swimming pool, and it kind of doesn't really have anything to do with the actual plot. But now they're going swimming, and there's a whole thing about how our boobs aren't big enough, and It's like, you don't really need to make that a thing, but it's fucking anime, so they always fucking do. Like, you do that shit in any American cartoon, that shit would get canceled in like a week. Or like after one airing. It's just not the same thing. Does that look okay? Or legs are really long, so it's like goes to like what there? That seems fine. No. Actually, I could probably even go taller than that. So let's say, let's do this. Oops. Let's say her head. I might be making her head too big even for anime. Completely forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, I think I was saying I watched a video specifically on how to draw hips, just because I feel like I have this weird tendency when I'm drawing in that area that it like feels strange and like it's not connected properly, and I feel like I've gotten better since I watched it, but I still don't. I don't know. There's a lot of little weird anatomy things that I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Anime has some character archetypes, whatever the hell, that we don't in America. It's bigger in Japan, and also, I don't know, anime's actually pretty big in China, so maybe it's that influence coming in there. I don't know. But anyway, we have these archetypes that is like, oh, this is the cocky, boisterous hero dude, and this is the like stupid but lovable sidekick or whatever. And then I'm not saying that, it's not to say that like anime doesn't also have those same kind of characters, but particularly in like this kind of show, because this is like a rom-com, they have a lot of these characters that is like, oh, they actually love you, but they act like this. Or it's like, they're called like the deades or whatever. Like, the most popular one, or one of the most common ones, I should say, and this is what she's an example of, is a tsundere. And basically what that means is, it's like, oh, she actually likes you, but she would never show you that. So instead, she treats you like garbage. Which I feel like if somebody in real life was actually kind of like that, it'd be sort of toxic. But for some reason, it's a very popular character archetype. Like, people are like, oh, we love that. Rough on the outside, but sweet on the inside type of deal. There's also a couple other ones. There's yandere, which is like they're completely obsessed with you or whoever they're in love with, to the point where they're fucking like insane. Like they'll do anything to be with you, like including murder in some cases. Which also is like, I don't understand why people find that kind of thing appealing. And yeah. But as far as that kind of thing goes, I've heard of other characters who were like that, and although she is definitely tsundere, I feel like she's a little bit more rounded out, because yeah, it falls into that thing where at first she's very rude and does all this stuff, like is embarrassed by signs of affection and whatnot. But also, it depends on who she's talking to. Like, she doesn't act that way with her best friend. She's just completely like, she's just herself. And she's very happy when she sees her best friend and all this stuff. And with her crush, with his best friend, that's the whole thing with the show, is they're trying to get them together. But with him, she can't even like the function when she's around him. Like, she goes very quiet and like isn't able to talk and like fucks things up. Like, and it's cute, it's endearing. It's very relatable. It's like, if you've ever really liked somebody like that, you probably can relate being very nervous around them, or like you don't necessarily feel super confident, or you feel kind of flustered. And it's kind of nice in that way. It's very relatable. And that skirt's doing some fucking weird defy logic physics thing, which another fucking anime stereotype. As they always are wearing these fucking 3-inch shorts, but can't be showing everybody your fucking underwear all the time. So they are like defying logic, anti-gravity. Which, better than the alternative, I guess. Just kind of funny in that way. think probably one of the biggest struggles with this drawing is going to be the hair. It's because it's very big. I think it's a very important part of her character design. That doesn't really make sense because tigers don't really have a mane. I guess they kind of do, but not really. But a whole big part of her character design is that hair, and particularly, I would say more so when she's in this mode of she'll kick your ass for no reason. Like, one wrong word and she'll beat the shit out of you. But yeah, particularly when she's in like that mode, I think her hair being this huge, big mess, or this big wild ball, like a wild animal, like I would say more like a lion. Although her whole thing, she's got a nickname in the show, and everybody calls her the palm top tiger, which is like basically it's like she could fit into your hand because she's so fucking small, but she is like a tiger because she can kill you. And yeah, I think that the hair and the design aspect is very representative of that. I'm really fucking not doing what I normally would for drawing today. I'm just kind of all over the place. Like normally I would say I would map this out first and then come back to it. But this is how I'm doing it because this is how I'm doing it. So I just said nothing, and yeah, and it should be okay. So alright, so that's about workable for her right now. But as you notice, she is also like fucking 2 feet shorter than Ryuji. So we gotta make some room. Put her like right there. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, that seems good. I'll put it right there. And we can always mess with that later. Let's make a separate layer now for our Ryuji. And we'll get to that. Ryuji. I don't know if that's a character archetype or not, but he is, like I said before, seen by everybody to be this very tough, very mean guy. But in reality, he's very nice and caring and will cook and clean and take care of you and shit like that. And so in a way, they're pretty good foil for each other. His eyes are like way up there, so like we'll put this like up there and tilt it upwards because he's kind of looking, his face is kind of tilted upwards. We'll do that. He should be a lot simpler, a lot quicker to draw. He's got much simpler design. He lives with his mom. Oh yeah, Taiga lives alone. And she happens to live in this huge apartment building, in this very, very big empty apartment. And there's this big joke where after she breaks into his house, like she goes home, and then the next morning he hears knocking on his window, and he goes to his bedroom window and he opens the door, and his house and this huge apartment building are right next to each other, and her window's right here and his window's right here, so they're literally like that close neighbors that's how she was able to get into his house, I guess. I don't know how the fuck she found out that he lived there, but whatever. But yeah, he lives alone, or no, he lives with his mom, and his dad's not in the picture because his dad actually was that kind of asshole that everybody seems to think that he is. And at the beginning of the show, it's kind of implied that he maybe died in something like related to being an asshole in the streets. But later on in the show, because there's an episode where Tyga's parents come around, or just her dad, and is trying to get back into her life, and she's like, fuck that guy, I'm not gonna talk to him anymore. And then he's very mad about it because he doesn't have that option, and he's basically like, my dad's not gonna come back no matter how hard I want him, how much I want him to. And so then she tries to patch things up with the dad, and there's a whole thing about that. But yeah, so he's very resentful of his dad, and he's resentful of the fact that he looks like his dad, because he doesn't really want people to compare him because he's a very different person. His dad was very irresponsible. His mom is also very irresponsible. And so he kind of had to take charge. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's never really gone into too much. I guess it talks about his mom works constantly, so the only time that they really get to spend together is during meals. But his mom's also very doesn't like cook, doesn't clean, doesn't do any of this stuff, so he's kind of had to take that up and learn to do it himself, I guess. That's at least what I take from it, because she will literally and it's not really her fault. I guess it's just kind of the way that the situation works out. It's like she's working all the time, so then because of that, he's kind of had to take that up that responsibility, and so he's the one who cooks and cleans and all this shit. And his mouth is like way down there, so we'll put the nose right there. His mouth's like right here. And he's kind of looking at Tyga, so his eyes are fucking dots, so we can easily fix that later on. But yeah, Ryuji. Throughout the course of the series, they kind of help each other out in that they're able to somewhat negate definitely in some capacity the negative reputations that they have. Like, everybody knows Tyga's gonna beat the shit out of you if she sees you or you cross her in some small way. And everybody assumes the same thing about Ryuji. They're like, oh, he's looks like a shithead, so he's probably a shithead. And they just kind of go based on that, even though it's not necessarily true. He's got a very... I'm kind of rounding him out so much. That's another thing, is like, it's not really... I have a very round style. My style's very round. That's what I'm used to, so. That's what I typically go with, but anime style's very blocky. It's very blocky donkey. Very sharp edges, and I don't know, they're just very good with things looking sharp and things looking round. He's got a very sharp design just because that's the whole thing. Is like everybody thinks that he's shithead because he's got very sharp features. He looks very sharp, jagged, like he'll beat the crap out of you in a second. But he's not that way, and she actually doesn't look like that, but she is that way, and so everybody knows that. Well, everybody who knows her, there's definitely some incidents throughout where people who don't know her approach her and try and assume that she's small and helpless and try to like pick on her and stuff, and it does not end well for them. Yeah, this is going to be a much quicker sketch. And I'll probably just I'll probably end up stopping with the sketches. Now, I think I made him much too big because he's taller than her, but he's only like 2 feet. This looks like about, maybe he's double her size, and I haven't even drawn the legs yet, so that's why it's always good to kind of, yeah, there we go. Shoulders, like, right, yeah, there we go. I was gonna draw my own, like, scene for it, like I was gonna do, is a lot of their relationships based on the fact that he cooks shit, and she's always coming over to his house because she's alone in that apartment, and he cooks nice meals, so it's like either being alone in the apartment or coming out to his house to hang out and eat and talk about stuff, and gets to hang out with his mom, and yeah, that's kind of how their friendship and eventually their relationship grows. Is they're always kind of together. They're always kind of hanging out. That's nice. It's very sweet. Alright, so then let me hide that. Let's move him over so I can take a look. Very basic, yeah, so I don't know if I even need that. I'll just kind of go for it. Yuji. Let's see, might have to fix this again. I don't know. Well, about where would his knees be? They'd be like right about there, right? So then maybe, I don't know. Well, that was the thing I was saying earlier, though, is she's got very, very, very long legs. One, because she's an anime character. Girls always have extremely long legs. This is the part of it. And two, I think it's to kind of emphasize how small she is, how skinny, how thin she is, malnourished, might say. Probably also why she likes going over to his house to eat all the time. I don't know. I feel like that's probably a good start for today. I'll edit this down into a kind of manageable chunk, and then probably work from there. Yeah, this is my first. This is, I guess, the first part of this mini series, as it'll be, of drawing. Yeah, he's got a much simpler design. It's really, I think, just going to be about the folds and the shading. And probably just, I think it's integral to his design to keep his eyes like that, so I'll probably keep his eyes that way, even though it doesn't necessarily fit my style that I normally do. And yeah, I'll save that right here. I'll do that as, oh yeah, that's the last thing I did with this. Jeez, it's been a long time. Toradora drawing. Okay, and I'll work on that a little later. Yeah, thanks for sitting in with me and listen to me rant and watching me draw. It's always fun. Been meaning to do that a little bit more. And yeah, I guess that's it. So thanks for watching this one. I'll talk to you in the next one. And I'll see you later. And bye. And bye. And